Life is short. Common sense is not so common. Many times we hear a short sentence or a phrase like these ones which have a very deep meaning. Each one of these is what we call an aphorism. Aphorism comes from Latin, Greek and eventually French. Apo and horizon combine to give us the word aphorism. To put it simply, it's a far-out thought. It comes from the horizon or maybe even beyond the horizon. So an aphorism defines a deep thought in a short phrase. Now read this sentence. Here Justice Holmes is talking about the obvious difference between an accident and the use of force. So aphorism is a short phrase that expresses a true or a wise idea. Maxim. A maxim is an expression of a general principle in a brief phrase. Necessity is the mother of all inventions. We have heard that before and we know what it means. When there is a need for something, it is just a matter of time. Human beings will invent something to fix the problem. We have seen the meaning of the word aphorism. Do you remember its meaning? An aphorism was a far-reaching thought in a brief phrase. Maxim, however, is more like a proverb to direct how to conduct ourselves. Live and let live. We must all live in harmony with each other, and that is captured well by this maxim. Euphemism. Jake's grandpa passed away. What does it mean? It means Jake's grandpa died. Passed away is a milder way of saying that he died. Using milder words to express a harsher truth is euphemism. The test results arrived and Jake failed. His father asks him how did he do in the test. Jake says, "I did not do very well." As a matter of fact, he performed very poorly. But he said, "I did not do very well" to soften the news. Pause the video and read this sentence. Letting go is a euphemism for firing the employees. So euphemism is the substitution of something unpleasant or offensive with milder words. Arcane. There are certain things in this world which are so complex that very few people understand them. Like tax laws. Which is why we need to consult accountants who understand all the ins and outs of the legal system. Such complex laws are called arcane laws, and these accountants have arcane knowledge. The word arcane comes from Latin, wherein it means something to the effect of keeping boxed. So the specialized knowledge is kept close to the chest and not shared with anyone to maintain an edge over the others. It is not just when it comes to the legal or tax systems that the word arcane is utilized. It is any specialized knowledge or actions which are known to very few. Vocabulary, which was previously unknown to you, will no longer be arcane after going through this course. So the adjective arcane means known or understood by very few. Esoteric. There are times we see there is some knowledge held closely within a small group of people. This specialized knowledge, which is somewhat held back from others, is what is called as esoteric knowledge. Such special know-how is always limited to a small group of people. The vast majority are left out. A common example is, the legal laws set forth by the Constitution can be so esoteric in nature that only a few top lawyers know how to work it to their advantage. At times, it also refers to obscure knowledge, like playing a very old musical instrument. This small bunch of people play this esoteric kind of musical instrument. So esoteric means specialized know-how held together by a small bunch of people. Convoluted. You want to start a business. You need to get clearance from the Department of Small-Scale Enterprise. When you go and submit an application, they say you must first get approval from your local municipal office. They send you off to the Environment Office for their approval. Then you go back to the municipal office only to be told that you also need police clearances, tax identification numbers, and a good character certificate. So this process just takes you back and forth from one government office to another. This complex and confusing process is what is called a convoluted process. It takes forever to accomplish, and at any given time the person involved remains very confused about the status because he's going around back and forth a lot. It is like a maze. After several steps forward, there is a blocking point, and now retracing steps is not that simple either. Though it can be seen at times as a verb, it is mostly seen as an adjective. Convoluted is an adjective which means something very complex with many twists and turns. Ascetic. This man living at the foothills of these beautiful mountains leads a very simple life. He rests under this tree, eats whatever berries he grows, and has no materialistic possessions. He is said to live an ascetic life. Though the literal translation from Greek means laborious, the way ascetic is used is to emphasize a very basic and simple way of life. He does not live extravagantly like we live in big cities. Cars, bright lights, movies, entertainment. Instead, he is focused only on shelter and food and leads an active life achieving this. It is an ascetic way of living. The word is often associated with monks and hermits because they live simplistic lives. So the noun ascetic means a very simple and basic way of life. Austere. Earlier we looked at what it means to lead a very simple and basic life. A life which monks and hermits live. It is called an ascetic life. Austere way of living also expresses the same meaning. It is a very watered-down version of something. Look at this office. It's so elaborately furnished. Fancy lights, nice furniture, big clock on the wall, and lots more. Now look at this office. It has just simple writing desks and chairs. That's all. Looks like they've chosen very austere furnishings. It is very simple. No luxurious things seen here. It looks like a harsh way of working. The literal translation from Greek means exactly that. Harsh. We also hear about austerity measures in cases of many countries which are struggling due to their financial situation. No person enjoys austerity when it is imposed on them. Their lifestyle or way of working gets stripped down to the bare necessities and all the trappings of luxury vanish. So the adjective austere means something very simple and basic.
When you see the word atypical, what comes to your mind? You can see that typical is contained within the word. We know what typical means. It means someone or something which conforms to a particular type. All these toppers you see here, it is typical to see them in the library after school hours. But here, typical is prefixed with a. Remember, adding an a in Greek is basically adding a no. So atypical means not typical, not conforming to a particular type. Now read this. It was very unusual to see the marathon runner take longer than usual. It was very atypical of him. He could have been unwell or maybe suffering an injury. So when you see atypical, it means not typical. Incongruous. Let's first look at the word congruous. It comes from Latin and it means harmony. More like to be in sync with the surroundings. Look at this army battalion all walking in sync. Now look at these kids creating havoc on the playground. You see harmony in one case and absolute lack thereof in the other. When you add into the word congruous, the resulting meaning becomes the opposite of harmonious. Something which is not in harmony. Though we speak about lack of harmony, incongruous is used mostly in a way to say something is amiss. Something is wrong. The commonly seen use of incongruous is seen in this example. Ryan's intense emotional speech seemed incongruous to those who worked with him and knew him well. Ryan is obviously a very calm person and known for his quiet ways. So when he had this outburst, it did not match with the impression everyone had of him. His behavior seemed out of sync with the way he conducts himself often. So when you see the word incongruous, it means something which is out of sync, something not normal. Anomaly. Look at all these rocks. They are perfect in shape and very uniform. Oh wait, look at this one. It is not like the others. It is uneven. The word anomaly comes from Latin and Greek. It basically means there is something which is not normal, something unusual, and irregularity. Often anomaly is assumed to be a fault, but the correct meaning is a deviation from the ordinary, something unusual which has been observed. Zara is so intelligent and has such high scores that she's an anomaly in this otherwise poor scoring class. Amongst poor performers, Zara stands out. She's an anomaly. Anomaly is a person or a thing which is different from what is usual. They are behaving like children. But this is a group of adults. So why is someone saying they are behaving like they are children? Does that mean they are becoming younger? Not really. What is meant is that this group of people is behaving very immaturely. It is not meant as a compliment. The statement has a slightly negative connotation. A connotation is meant to make you think of something else in addition to the explicit meaning of what was said. It implies something which could be very different. You can imaginatively associate what is said to what is meant based on the context. The CEO said in his speech that the current financial crisis will need us to rethink the future strategy, and I wondered whether there were scary connotations of impending job losses. Connotation means suggestion of an additional meaning for a word or expression apart from its explicit meaning. Virgin. Look at this small pot. Zara had carefully planted seeds in it and watered it daily. Now those seeds are sprouting and you can see flowers blooming. Virgin means to sprout. The word came from Anglo-French and meant to bud or to sprout. Over time though, the meaning of the word is taken more in a figurative way. The usage of mobile phones is burgeoning. Mobile phones don't sprout, they're just becoming very common and being seen everywhere. They are used by everyone to make calls and browse the internet. This is what burgeon means. The word burgeon means to spread rapidly. Ubiquitous. In the year 1995, seeing a mobile phone was so rare. Now mobile phones are everywhere. They are so common and some people even have two or more. The fact that they are seen everywhere is what is known as ubiquitous. The word comes from the noun ubiquity, which means present everywhere. This street was previously devoid of any restaurants. Now fast food restaurants are ubiquitous. From a total lack of restaurants, now there are fast food restaurants wherever you look. They are present everywhere, they are ubiquitous. Inexorable. Can we stop the advances that computers are making? No, we cannot. The progress that computer technology is making is inexorable. It is unstoppable. It is also used to refer to someone's inflexible ways. Despite the team not being very happy with his ways of working, Ryan continued his inexorable ways. Ryan obviously has his own way of working, and that is not being appreciated by the team. As a team, we all need to find a middle ground, a compromise so as to be able to work together in harmony. But Ryan is very inflexible and he continues to work his own style, much to the annoyance of his colleagues. So when you see the word inexorable, it means unstoppable or inflexible ways.
copious. These kids playing on the beach on a hot summer afternoon are consuming lots of fizzy drinks. They are consuming copious amounts of coke. Simply put, copious means lots. A rich and abundant supply of something. It implies more in terms of quantity. The history teacher was known to dictate copious amounts of notes for students. So copious is an adjective which expresses abundance or extensive in quantity. Look at this person yawning with his mouth gaping wide open. This gaping hole is where the word chasm arrives from in Latin and Greek. It means a big gap like the one seen in the Earth's surface. A big opening. What it is mostly used as in context of is when there is a big difference of opinion between two people or groups of people. The chasm between the elite students and the students who do not have access to quality education is vast. However, since 2013, Don't Memorize has been providing quality education to all, and the chasm is closing. So the big gap between the students who had access to quality but expensive education and the ones who were not as lucky is now closing because everyone has access to quality education without having to pay an exorbitantly large fee. Schism. What does schism remind you of? Do you remember we looked at chasm? Chasm meant a gap. Schism is not much different. It means to split a body which was previously unified. Schism has its source from several languages, including Latin, Greek, amongst others. In many ways, it is used in similar ways to chasm. The schism in the group was obvious. That means the split within the group was becoming very clear. Talking about the political power struggle in South Africa, Bloomberg reported this. The statement was confirmation of a serious schism within the ruling African National Congress. So a party in which everyone was initially aligned is now moving in different directions. Cognitive. We have previously looked at the word cognizant, which meant to recognize and be aware. These activities relate to the brain. Cognitive as well has to do with brain activity. When we think, analyze, and lay down an action plan, these are all activities which utilize our cognitive skills. Cognitive processes relate to the brain. Thinking, remembering, analyzing, and reasoning are cognitive skills. Read this excerpt from the New York Times. So what we see here is an article in the New York Times about a study which shows evidence that high blood pressure leads to impairment of brain activity in kids. Cognizant. When you see cognizant, you can see it sort of resembles the word recognize. Recognize means to know and to remember from previous knowledge. Cognizant is very similar. It means to be aware of something. When she signed up for a skydiving lesson, Zara was cognizant of the risks associated with jumping out of a plane. So Zara knows exactly what the risks involved are. Her parachute might not open, her parachute might get entangled within itself and not open as it should. She might have a rough landing. There are many risks, but she's aware and fully cognizant of them. Cognizant is an adjective which shows that a person is very aware of the point of discussion. Fallible. Let's look at an easy way to remember what it means. We can see the word fall within fallible. So simply put, it is capable of falling or capable of making mistakes. Everyone is fallible to some extent. It means all of us are capable of making mistakes. We as humans are prone to errors. Regardless of how perfect we are at our profession, we make mistakes. We are not infallible. We are not infallible is a more common way of saying we are fallible. So the adjective fallible means capable of making mistakes. Trite.
Have you ever heard someone repeat the expression over and over again? When they said it the first time, it was original and cool, but now you've heard them say it innumerable times. It's got so boring that the expression has really lost its charm. This is what is called a trite expression. It is no longer interesting or effective because of its overuse. The word comes from Latin, where it means worn out. It was his 10th television interview in as many days. His advice was now sounding trite. Trite is an adjective which means an overused phrase or story.
Efficacy. When we look at the word efficacy, we can see it closely resembles the word effective and efficiency. That's where it originates from in Latin. What efficacy means is the power to bring about a desired result. You wanted to grow a tree which bears fruit, so you can eat free fruit for the rest of your life. So you buy land and get all the permits, and buy seeds and fertilizer and look after the tree for several years till it bears fruit. But wait, though your project is a success, look how much money you spent for your lifetime supply of fruit. Imagine how much fruit you could have bought for that amount. Your project displayed absolutely no efficacy. Read this sentence. Low-cost alternative traditional medicines have been seen by many to be an alternative to expensive modern medicine. Though there is no conclusive evidence yet, it is gradually gaining in popularity, mainly because there are positive results seen and the money spent is much lesser. So the noun efficacy is the power to produce the desired result efficiently.
Empathy. Empathy often gets confused with sympathy. We have looked at what sympathy means. To sympathize was to show compassion towards someone or towards some cause. Empathy, on the other hand, is to really understand what the other person feels and also feel a strong attachment to their situation. You're not just feeling sorry for the person, but you are able to visualize it and almost feel it as if you're in the situation yourself. When Blake was stopped from attending the class because he was a minute late, all his classmates felt empathy towards him. They knew Blake walked 10 kilometers to school every day and had to battle the scorching sun and at times torrential rain. Blake had a tough life and he did not deserve the punishment. His classmates knew his plight and felt that he should have been looked at in a more lenient way by the teacher. They knew that they would not be able to do any better if they were in Blake's shoes. So the noun empathy means to associate oneself with the situation very closely. Apathy. The first word that comes to your mind when you see this word is sympathy. What does sympathy mean? When we sympathize with someone, it could mean we feel sorry for their plight. It could mean we agree with their feelings, we feel compassionate. What about apathy? Apathy means you don't really care. Zara said she has been working excruciatingly long hours. Zen really sympathizes with her view. Work has been very tough for her lately. But apathy means displaying total indifference to what Zara said. For instance, Bianca doesn't care about how hard she's working or how tough it has been on her. Bianca is no longer displaying any emotion. She's neither supporting her view nor going against it. Read this sentence. We all know that air pollution is detrimental to our well-being and good health. But wanting to rapidly advance as a developed nation, the people of the country are putting more emphasis on industries with little thought to how much pollution they create. They are showing apathy towards an important issue. The most common way of seeing it in a sentence is apathy towards. It will be apathy towards the issue on hand. So the noun apathy means to show indifference to an issue, not care about it, and hence not take sides. Antipathy. We have looked at what sympathy means and we looked at apathy as well. Sympathize was to show compassion towards someone or towards some cause.
while apathy was to display absolutely no emotion. To be indifferent. Antipathy, I'm sure you can derive by yourself. There has always been strong antipathy between the two political parties. We can see here that the two political parties have a different view of where the country is and where it should be headed. They are very strongly opposed to the other party. They display hostility towards each other. The most common way of seeing it in a sentence is antipathy towards. It will be antipathy towards the issue on hand. So the noun antipathy means to be strongly against someone or against some idea. Contagion. What is the similarity between the following diseases? These are infectious diseases which are easily transmitted by contact from one person to another. They are referred to as contagious diseases. Contagious is a verb and contagion is the noun form. The noun contagion, when spoken, does not just relate to disease. It basically refers to anything that spreads rapidly. Even something like people's sentiment. When a large bank went bankrupt during the 2008 global financial crisis, the contagion effects were felt across the world. The bankruptcy of the large bank had an effect on other businesses as well, and that in turn led to other bankruptcies and job losses. So the contagion effects were felt globally. Let's have a quick geography lesson. Look at Switzerland. Do you know which countries surround Switzerland? Switzerland shares its borders with Germany, France, and Italy. So Switzerland and France are contiguous. So are Germany and Switzerland. Italy and Switzerland as well are contiguous. The word contiguous comes from Latin, where it means to touch. So when something is adjoining the other, it is referred to as contiguous. This farmer owns several plots of land in this village, but they are not contiguous. In the map of this village, we can see all the plots. So the farmer owns these plots. He owns quite a few, but they are not connected with each other. Contiguous is an adjective which means adjoining. Contingent. The plan is to go to the park for a picnic all day tomorrow. But if it rains, we will need to cancel the picnic. So the picnic plans depend on the weather. The picnic plans are contingent on the weather. When used as an adjective, contingent means to be dependent on. It means conditional. It's almost like if and then statement. If it rains, then there will be no picnic. The picnic is contingent on the weather. It is dependent on the weather. So when something is based on certain conditions, it is referred to as contingent. The adjective contingent shows something which may happen based on another event occurring. As a noun, the word contingent has a different meaning. It means a group of people, a delegation. The Olympics contingent will return from the games tomorrow. That is the Swiss contingent in that corner. So the noun contingent means a group of people. One good way to remember the meaning is by looking at the word continent. Contingent, continent. A continent has many countries which are dependent on each other for trade. The Indian contingent performed really well at the Olympics. Zara only had a few vegetables left with her. But she was as good as a master chef and contrived within no time a fantastic meal for all of her friends. Contrive comes from Middle French, which means to devise. So Zara did a very skillful job. But now look at this sentence. The convicted prisoners contrived a spectacular way to escape. Now what the prisoners have done is not something which the police will call good. But what contrived implies is that they had to be very skillful to have devised the escape plan.
Not every prisoner can manage to escape the way they did. The verb contrive means to devise something skillfully. Contrite. After the prison sentence was announced, the judge asked the convicted criminal if he had anything to say. Looks like he was really remorseful for his wrongdoing. He was very contrite. When a person feels truly sorry for any wrongdoing, feels a sense of guilt, that person is contrite. Now look at this sentence. Here you can see the store owner says he's sorry, but in reality he's not. He's just paying lip service. So the adjective contrite is used to describe a feeling of true remorse. Heuristic. When we build something for the school project, most of the times we don't get it right the first time around. We keep trying different solutions till we find one which works best. This trial and error process is called heuristics. It is a heuristic process. It is not just about trying the same thing over and over again. It is trying to achieve a better result using a slightly different way. We often see our mobile apps having an update. By trying out new ways and writing new lines of code, the app developers have found new ways to make the app run more efficiently. Heuristic methods are trial and error methods. The word itself comes from Latin, which means discover. So, after several attempts, the best solution is discovered. It is mostly used as an adjective, a heuristic process. Without realizing, we live our lives in a heuristic fashion. When someone provides feedback, we adjust our performance to incorporate new ways which the feedback suggested. If it doesn't work well, then we go back to the previous way and keep repeating this improvisation process. Heuristic is an adjective which alludes to a trial and error process.
Iteration. During a school project, when we have to build a physical structure, we have to make several attempts until we get it right. Even when we get it right, we make few more attempts to make the structure even better than before. What we are doing is repeating a process till we achieve a satisfactory result. This process of repeating is what a process of iterating is. An iteration is one such process out of many processes. The previous iteration of this software was a disaster. The current iteration is very stable. So the noun iteration is nothing but an act of repetition. Espouse. In espouse, we can see the word spouse, and spouse when used as a noun means husband or wife. And originally, espouse did mean to marry, but its meaning has evolved over time. Espouse is a verb and it means to embrace or take something as your own. The way it is used is to show someone taking up an initiative, embracing an idea, or committing to a cause. The new way of teaching has been espoused by many prominent teachers. So in this sentence, you can see there is no marriage or partnership present. The word espoused in this sentence says that many teachers are now adopting this new way of teaching. So the verb espouse means to embrace or support a cause.
Pugnacious. Look at this big guy. He is the bully of the class. He takes advantage of his size and is always in a mood to fight. This quarrelsome attitude is what is called as pugnacious behavior. The word repugnant comes from Latin, which when translated means to fight against. Do you remember the word belligerent? The belligerent nations were on the brink of war. Pugnacious is very similar, but used more so in terms of people's attitude. The pugnacious protesters refused to back off despite threats from the police. So the adjective pugnacious describes someone's aggressive attitude.
the word aggrandize. It contains the word grand. It means to make something grand or greater. To increase or enhance, maybe even to make something appear greater than what it actually is. This appeared in a Bloomberg report. In this report, the president of Zimbabwe is obviously not very happy about the way he has been described and is planning to punish those who published a statement.
The statement said that the president gained greater power at the expense of his suffering citizens.
So aggrandize is to make something appear greater. The word incumbent refers to a person who is holding office or a certain position. The current president, the current prime minister are all incumbents. The word itself comes from Latin. Put together, it means something like to lie down. Person who is in the position at this time. The incumbent was facing serious allegations of fraud. Here the person in position was facing fraud allegations. The incumbent was about to lose to a previously unheard of candidate. In this case, the person currently holding office was about to be dethroned by an unheard of candidate. When used as a noun, incumbent is someone who is holding office. Abate. When it rains very heavily, at some point in time the intensity of the downpour reduces. This is when the rain is abating, reducing in intensity. It has not stopped yet, but it is abating. Take a moment and read this sentence. So what we can gather is that the temperatures remain elevated despite the official change of season. Another common usage of abate is seen as follows. The floods continued unabated. This would translate to the floods did not abate. So the verb abate means to reduce in intensity.
Abet. If we help someone do something illegal, we are abetting the person committing the crime. Even if we did not commit the crime personally, we aided the criminal. Our direct or indirect help assisted the criminal in carrying out the illegal act. So we are partnering with the criminal by providing some sort of assistance. We could be housing the criminal and keeping him safe from the eyes of the police, or we could be turning a blind eye to what crime is being committed. All these acts amount to abetting the crime. One common phrase you will see is aiding and abetting. When the criminal was caught and sentenced, Jake was sentenced as well for aiding and abetting the criminal. So abetting is used when a person supports an illegal act to be carried out. Do not confuse this with abate. Abate is reduction in intensity. They are even pronounced differently. This is abet and this is abate.
Look at these two guys. They are the owners of these two shops which compete with each other. It looks like they're up to some mischief. Oh wow, the prices of items in this shop went up considerably. Let's look at the other one. Oh my god, prices have gone up equally here as well. Now we know what they were discussing. They secretly made an illegal agreement to raise prices. There was collusion between them to fix prices. Make sure you understand the difference between collaborate and collude. Collaboration is when two parties work together and bring their areas of expertise together to benefit both, and they come up with a better product or service for the public. In case of collusion, the two parties make a secret agreement to the detriment of the customer who suffers. The mafia in collusion with the players had already fixed the matches. Here the mafia colluded with the players for a dishonest purpose. So collusion is nothing but a secret agreement between people for fraudulent purposes. What does abstain mean? Abstain means to hold yourself back from something. Something that you generally enjoy doing, but is considered improper or bad. Say you enjoy having junk food, but realize that it's not good for health. So you will abstain from having junk food. Most women said they abstained from having alcohol during pregnancy. A word which comes close to abstain is refrain. Both mean that you're stopping yourself from something that you want to do. I refrained from telling her a secret. Observe that both are followed by from, and that's almost always the case. So abstain is to not do something, especially something you enjoy that you think might be bad.
Acrimonious. When there are two people having a bitter argument about an issue, this bitter argument is what is known as acrimonious debate. The people on both sides of the river remain divided over the acrimonious fight about the water-sharing pact. Both the sides were vociferous and insistent that they deserve to have more water from the river. This battle has been going on for years and has become more acrimonious. Acrimony is its noun form and is seen used in this sentence. The adjective acrimonious refers to a very harsh and strong piercing use of words against the other. Belligerent. These two neighbors were always annoyed with each other and ready to pick up a fight. They were belligerent. They were hostile and aggressive at all times. When it came to each other, their mood was always belligerent. They ended up quarreling most of the time. The word itself comes from Latin, which when translated means to wage war. The common use, however, is to show someone's preparedness to start a fight. Their aggression and hostility. When nations are discussing border disputes, they tend to be belligerent. So the adjective belligerent means someone who is eager to pick up a fight. Polemic. The polemic between the two groups continued unabated. The two groups have strong opposing views and very strong personalities. They keep attacking each other's views and beliefs by using very strong language. That is what polemic is. We have looked at the word tirade. We can say that polemic is a synonym of tirade. Tirade is a vocal attack, but a polemic could be vocal or written. A polemic is also much more intense. It's a very strong attack. This article is a fierce polemic against racism in our community. What was meant to be a friendly debate eventually resorted to polemics. Polemic is a noun which means a strong vocal or written attack against others' views or beliefs. Sanctimonious. This man denounced the way this group of people littered. He insisted they be punished severely. But in reality, he was no different. On a normal day, when unseen by others, he would do exactly the same. While he criticized the people who made a mess, he only pretended to be a much better citizen. He was putting on a sanctimonious act. Sanctimonious is just pretending to be better than the rest. Like holier than thou attitude. I am kinder than the others. I am more well-mannered. I am more generous. I am better than the best. Sanctimonious implies being hypocritical, projecting a nice image of oneself, but in reality it is not true. So sanctimonious is an adjective which means pretending to be morally better than others. Unctuous. See this salesman's sweet talking. He is praising the customer for his choice and trying to make the customer feel good. He does not mean anything he's saying. He's being insincere. His behavior is unctuous. This is making the customer feel very uncomfortable. The word unctuous comes from Latin and then Middle English, where it meant oily or greasy. It related to a soothing ointment. So how does oily come into the picture? Have you ever heard someone say they are buttering, greasing, which implies sweet talking? Just insincere talk with a vested interest. very slick and smooth behavior to try and influence the other person. His assessment about his neighbor's lawn was obviously unctuous. The neighbor's garden was nothing great, but he praised it and spoke very highly about it. It was obvious to the neighbor that this praise was insincere and it left a poor taste. Unctuous is an adjective which describes insincere behavior. Decorous. When you see the word decorous, what comes to mind? Have you heard the word decorum? What about decorate? Decorum means appropriate behavior. Like standing up when greeting someone. We have to maintain decorum not just when we go to formal events, but at all times. We must behave appropriately and politely at all times. High standards of decorum are required at every board meeting. If you haven't heard the word decorum, it's because over time the usage of the word has reduced. But I'm sure you've heard the word decorate. We decorate our homes, our rooms, our office desks, and even our classrooms. We beautify our living areas to feel nice and comfortable. Decorate, decorum, and decorous all have the same origin. Decorous is the verb form of decorum. It means to be proper, to be appropriate, to be decent and tasteful. So while decorate is about arranging and beautifying, decorous is about how we behave. So the adjective decorous refers to polite, appropriate, and tasteful behavior.
Admonish. When a student arrives late to class, the teacher gently but seriously warns the student of being more punctual in the future. A gentle but serious warning is what is called admonishing. Here's an example. The teacher admonished me for not having done my homework. The word comes from Latin, which means to warn. For having made such a mess in the living room, Zen's parents will admonish him. So here, Zen's parents will scold Zen for having made a mess, but they will also advise him that he should clear up the mess and that it's important to have a neat, clean, and an organized home. It is a scolding, but it comes with some advice. Look at this player taking a penalty kick. Oops, he misses it. Oh my god, I wonder what the coach will say. When someone is severely criticized for having done something wrong or for not having met the mark, that person is being chastised. We looked at admonish earlier, and that was a mild scolding. Chastise, however, is very severe and harsh criticism for doing something wrong. Pause the video and read this sentence. Obviously, Jack has been advised before to stick to a healthy diet. Unfortunately, he hasn't, and that is reflected on his poor medical reports. The doctor is very annoyed that Jack does not pay heed to his advice and severely criticizes him for that. So the verb chastise means to criticize severely. Castigate. We have seen the word chastise. Chastise means to reprimand severely. Castigate means exactly that. It means to reprimand severely. However, it is used more when someone is reprimanded severely in public. It originates from Latin and means to correct or punish. The teacher's attitude and ability to castigate her students gave her a unique reputation amongst the teachers. So you can see that the teacher criticizes the students in class for the poor work they have done. She is more critical than the others who may admonish the students but not castigate them. Castigate is a verb used mainly when criticized or reprimanded severely in public.
Tirade. The customer was very annoyed about the product he had bought. He kept complaining about each and every flaw he experienced, and it was never ending. To Zara, it felt like his tirade lasted forever. Tirade is a long and angry speech. It is very critical and bitter. The word comes from Italian, which means to draw, but the literal meaning is to stretch. too prolonged. The football coach was furious and went into a tirade about the missed chances. You can see that the coach was very annoyed and expressed his criticism with a very long outburst. So the noun tirade is a lengthy speech but full of criticism and anger.
Umbrage. When someone says something very nasty to us, we get offended. Getting offended is what is also known as umbrage. I take great umbrage in the statement that I am doing all this only for the money. I am actually doing this because I love my work. So here I take offense that my efforts are being put down to being simply for materialistic gain. So umbrage is nothing but offense or displeasure.
Vilify. Despite having played really well and finished at the second spot, the manager's coaching skills were vilified by the press. The press reports spoke about his lack of desire to win the trophy. Vilify is to make a very strong defamatory statement against someone. When a tabloid expresses a very low opinion of someone, that person is being vilified. It is made in a manner that will embarrass the person and ruin his reputation. The opposition was quick to vilify the ruling party over failed policies. Vilify is a verb which means to make very abusive and cheap comments about someone.
Affectation. We often see people putting on an act to impress someone. Affectation means to put on an act with the sole intention to impress someone. To engage in behavior which is not normal and insincere. It is an effort to attract attention by pretense. Some people pretend to be very polite and kind in public only to project a nice image. Behind closed doors, it would be an entirely different story. Now read this sentence. Here you can see that over the course of the day, when the person in question is tired, his true colors are coming out. His excitement has died down and the good manners he had displayed was just an act. If we are truly well-mannered, it does not matter how tired or stressed we are. We will always be good-mannered as it's second nature to us. So affectation is nothing but behavior which is not sincere. Peroration. You can see the word contains oration. Orate is to speak at length, like delivering a long speech. Peroration means the end of an oration, end of a lengthy speech. Occasionally, it alludes to the end of a long and boring speech. Now look at this Bloomberg report about President Obama's 2012 State of the Union speech. The speech spoke about the health of the American economy, climate change, school standards, etc. But the conclusion of the speech, which spoke about gun violence, really stood out. So peroration is the concluding part of a long speech.
Truncate. Look at this water pipe. It is too long to fit. Let's shorten it. Let us cut a small part from this end. Oh, it still doesn't fit. Okay, let us chop a part from the other end. Okay, now it is the correct size. What we did was truncated the pipe. We reduced its size by cutting it. Let's look at a math class and see this number. But we need to restrict it to only 2 decimal spots, so we truncate it to 1.44. Oh wow, that's a long stem. Let's truncate it. Let's truncate the long speech down to just the important bits. It can also be used as an adjective. It was a truncated speech. So that's what truncate means. To reduce or curtail something. Truncate is a verb which means to shorten. Alacrity. When mom asks us to go and do some studying, our response is slow. We are seldom excited about sitting in our rooms, studying English grammar on a nice sunny day. But if your mom had said, go out and play with your friends, you would have followed her instructions in a fraction of a second. That is alacrity. very willing, very ready to do it cheerfully and promptly. The word comes from Latin, which means eager. When it came to his own issues, he always displayed alacrity in solving them. What it means is that this person does not really budge willingly when others are facing problems. However, when it comes to his own, he solves them all too eagerly. So, alacrity is a noun which means cheerfully ready to do something and doing it promptly.
Sometimes when we least expect it, we notice something which triggers a brilliant idea. You suddenly see something in a new and a clear way. This is what is called an epiphany. Seeing a circular rock roll down freely, the leader of the group saw an epiphany leading to the creation of the wheel. Here's an example of epiphany in a sentence. This inventor had one epiphany after another, leading to many cutting-edge inventions. The word epiphany comes from Greek and it means to show, to reveal. The origin of the word is in fact from a Christian festival which is held on January 6th. It is to commemorate the appearance of a divine being. Serendipity. Let's say you're the lucky type of guy. You bump into someone in a park who strikes up a conversation and swiftly offers you a job you can't refuse. You were not looking for a job. You had not applied to work for this man. You were not even trying to meet him. It all just happened as a matter of chance. When you accidentally find something which you're not looking for, what you're experiencing is serendipity. It is a serendipitous moment. It is different from epiphany in the sense, epiphany helps you see something very clearly and in a new way. Serendipity is more of being in the right place at the right time. The word serendipity comes from a fairy tale, The Three Princes of Serendip, in which the three princes during their travels were discovering new things by accident. None of these discoveries were what the three princes had set out to find. They were just lucky. So serendipity is nothing but being lucky by accident. Litany comes from Latin, Anglo-French and eventually Greek. Though the actual meaning is a serious request or praying for something, what it has evolved into is a long list. Mostly a long list of complaints. A list of positive things would not be referred to as a litany, nor will a long list of shopping items. It is mostly complaints and concerns. Look at this sentence. There are several concerns that were seen because of the inefficiency of the management, hence the litany of questions. The noun litany means a long list of complaints or problems. Microcosm. Look at the Earth that we live in. It is massive. Now this is the solar system which our Earth exists in. Even if we had a fast spaceship at our disposal, it would take us such a long time to go from one end of the solar system to another. But is the solar system really that large? It does not appear as large when seen in context of the entire universe. Now the solar system looks like a very small part of the universe. The solar system is a microcosm of the entire universe. When survey is being taken by a media outlet, it is only a microcosm of the entire population that is polled. The small group of people polled are representatives of the larger population. So what microcosm means is a small portion of something much larger. Moniker. Have you heard of Juan Martín del Potro? He's an Argentinian tennis player who's known as the Gentle Giant. So is his real name Gentle Giant? No, it's not. His real name is Juan Martín del Potro. Gentle Giant is his nickname. That's what a moniker is. Nickname. The origin of moniker is said to be from Irish. It means a nickname. Look at this article which appeared in Bloomberg. Here, Trader A is a moniker used instead of the person's real name. The noun moniker is a person's name, especially a nickname.
parsimonious. Here we have Mr. Sparse. He has lots of money, but he never spends any of it. Absolutely nothing. He is so tight-fisted when it comes to money, nothing ever comes out. Mr. Sparse is a parsimonious man. Very, very stingy indeed. He spends very sparsely, if at all. So to get any donation for our social cause from Mr. Sparse is pretty much out of the question. The noun form of parsimonious is parsimony. Parsimonious is an adjective which describes miserly behavior. Spendthrift. We have met Mr. Sparse and Warren. Now meet Mr. Extravagant. Equally wealthy as the other two, but I doubt for very long. He spends as if there is no tomorrow. He is very wasteful and careless when it comes to spending money. He is a spendthrift. If he continues at this rate, his funds will deplete very quickly. The word spend when attached to thrift means someone who spends more than he should and for no good reason. With his spendthrift lifestyle, all the millions he had inherited from his grandmother disappeared in a very short span of time. So you can see Mr. Extravagant, who had inherited wealth, led a very expensive lifestyle. Fancy cars, exotic holidays, shopping at designer stores and more. Very soon he was left with nothing. The adjective spendthrift means someone who carelessly squanders away his wealth. Thrift. We have met Mr. Sparse already. Now we meet Warren. Warren is also very wealthy. He's not stingy, but he does not go overboard spending. He looks for the best deals available. He goes to thrift shops to buy day-to-day essentials. He could have bought more expensive brands, but he tries to lead a prudent life. He does spend, but he wants to get value for his money. He leads a life of thrift. The word comes from Middle English, which means to thrive. By using our available resources carefully and prudently, we can all thrive and still lead a nice and comfortable life. Our savings at the same time will also grow vigorously. Have you heard of a thrift institution? It is like a bank, an institution where you can regularly save money. Save for the future. It is called a thrift institution because thrift relates to prudent behavior. Through long hours of work and thrift, they manage to build their dream home. Thrift is a noun which means prudent behavior. Thrifty is the adjective form.
Salient. Look at this car. It looks almost similar to other cars, but it has some striking features. It has a sunroof, it has power windows, a very fancy radio, and the list goes on. These striking features which the car dealer wants to highlight to us are called the salient features. The word itself is derived from Latin, which translates to leap out. Salient features stand out amongst the others. They are the highlight of the product or the topic. It appears very prominently. Here's an example. So just in case your audience lost track, you can remind all of them the main points of your speech. Salient is an adjective that means most noticeable or important.
Circumscribe. Let's take a quick geometry class. This is a circle, this is the center of the circle, and this is the radius. Do you remember what this boundary is? You're right, it is the circumference of the circle. The word comes from Latin, which means scribble around. You scribbled a circle around this area. The circumference traps within the circle all this area. Circumscribe a circle around a polygon. So this polygon is now restricted within this circle. So the way circumscribe is used is when something is restricted, when there are limits laid down. The boundaries are defined and those are the limits. A new law was put into place circumscribing what could be written about the royal family in the media. So though circumscribe is heard in geometry class, In the outside world, the word circumscribe means to lay down restrictions. Prescribe. The carriage of any Samsung Note 7 on an airplane is now prescribed by all airlines. What does that mean? I specifically used the Samsung Note 7 example because it was so much in the news and everyone in the world knows that there is a risk of the phone battery catching fire. No airline will allow you to carry the phone on board their planes. It is too risky, which is why it is not allowed on board. It is essentially outlawed. So, prescribe means to prohibit or to outlaw. Be careful and don't mistake proscribe with prescribe. They are almost opposite. Your doctor prescribes you some medication. The doctor at the same time prescribes the consumption of junk food. The easy way to remember is we know doctors prescribe medication. Prescriptions recommend what we should do. Prescribing is something which is outlaw, something we should not do. So prescribe is a verb which means to forbid something.
Rapprochement. When two warring groups come together and put aside all their animosity towards each other, it is an act of rapprochement. It is two parties reconciling together after having been angry at each other for a while. The people living in this building were always fighting with each other, but since the day the new resident organized a picnic, it led to a rapprochement. Now they have cordial relations with each other and live in harmony. The word itself comes from French, which means to bring together. Look closely. I can see reapproach, which means exactly what we saw earlier. Coming back together. So, the noun rapprochement means to bring two warring sides back together. Refute. There were many allegations made against this person, but he gave a very long explanation to prove that none of these allegations were correct. He refuted all the allegations made against him. By providing evidence of all the facts, he argued that the allegations were false. With detailed explanation, he refuted all the accusations point by point. The appropriate use of refute is when something is disproved. However, quite often you will also see refute being used in place of deny. She refuted all the claims made against her. In this particular case, the lady has only denied the claims made against her. She has not provided evidence or proven the claims to be incorrect. The word refute means something is disproved with the evidence provided.
Repugnant. One of Jack's friends always used foul language. His way of speaking, his choice of words, his tone of voice was so repugnant. In this case, repugnant means something very distasteful, unacceptable, or offensive. It is disturbing. But there are also other ways you will observe the word being used. The word repugnant comes from Latin, which when translated means to go against. When you read the fine print in this document, it is repugnant to the law stated on the body of the main page. So what is meant here is that the fine print is going against what has been established as lawful. It disturbs what is already defined as the norm. The fine print opposes the law. It is contradictory in nature. The adjective repugnant means something distasteful, something which goes very much against what is accepted.
Respite. It was one unhappy customer after another. Finally, when all customers have been attended to, there was respite and then it started all over again. Zara had a small break in the middle. It was temporary and then unhappy customers continued to show up with their grievances. Though it refers to a brief suspension, it mostly refers to an interval between unpleasant or difficult activities.
You won't hear someone wanting a respite during an extended holiday. We want holidays to keep going. His illness forced this respite from his hectic work schedule. During Christmas, students get a well-deserved respite from their strenuous school activities. So the noun respite means a brief interval between difficult times.
Look at this word closely. It is almost like reinstitute, and that's what it is. It is instituting something again back to how it was. Restitution originates from a Latin word which means to set up, and as we have seen other examples, the prefix re means again. So the meaning of restitution is to set up again. The public appealed to the monarch for full restitution of fundamental laws. Here you can see the people who have been deprived of basic freedom demanding from the monarch that they be allowed the liberty of fundamental laws. And at times, restitution is also used to refer to compensation paid to make up for any shortcomings or flaws or damages. Let's read this Bloomberg report about the Volkswagen emissions scandal. I know it looks a bit like a math problem, but anyway, in this story, to make good for the incorrect data on emissions, Volkswagen is set to compensate each Volkswagen car owner to the tune of 20% of the value of the vehicle plus $2,987. Look at retribution. You can see it has tribute within it. The word tribute comes from Latin, which means to pay. We have seen in many other examples that re means again. So the meaning of retribution is payback. But what do I mean when I say payback? Have you heard the analogy, we reap as we sow? The harvest is dependent on what we sowed many months ago. We sow something nice and look after it well, we get a good crop. When we do something which is wrong, we eventually have to pay back in one way or the other. So having to pay back for past actions is retribution. Look at this headline which appeared in the New York Times. The retribution did arrive in a way of ban on participation in the Rio Olympics. Many players were banned from participating at the Olympics because of them engaging in illegal doping practices. So retribution is nothing but deserved punishment for your wrongdoings.
Restive. Look at this child. He's jumping from one spot to another. He does not sit still even for a single moment. He does not do as he's told. He's restless. He's fidgety. That is what is called restive. Look at this girl. She's sleepless and spending a restive night worrying about her GMAT. Being restless and impatient is being restive. Restless, restive. Restive comes from Anglo-French and translates to balky or stubborn. To be uncooperative. It is believed to have originated from horses refusing to follow instructions. The citizens of the country have waited a long time for better conditions to live, and as there has been no improvement, they are becoming restive. They are becoming uneasy and impatient with having to suffer poor governance. So the adjective restive means to be impatient, fidgety, and restless.
Visceral. Visceral comes from the word viscera. You might recall coming across this word when you studied biology in school. In medical terms, viscera means the organs that reside in the large cavity of the trunk, like the heart, liver, intestines, and so on. In the literary sense, visceral means what you feel deep inside, something more of a gut feeling, more of an instinctive thought rather than a logical one. Thomas Williams in the Washington Post reviewed a book on racism. The brain here is being set aside and the instinctive forces are at play. People are dealing with raw emotions. Visceral is an adjective which means coming from strong emotions rather than logic or reason. Here's your next word, appease. Appease means to please someone by giving them something feed a hungry kid by giving him a chocolate. The parent gave her kid a chocolate because he had hunger pangs, else the kid would have gotten cranky. With the chocolate, the parent avoided that situation. Another context it's used in is to preserve peace between two groups or nations. They appease the leader by accepting his demands in an effort to avoid war. As a general rule, appease means to pacify someone by giving in to their demands.
Reticent. It is hard to tell what Zara is thinking. She does not reveal what is on her mind that easily. The fact that Zara does not speak freely is called reticent. The adjective reticent comes from Latin, where it means to remain silent. Now, it used to mean communicate reluctantly or hesitant to reveal one's mind. So Zara by nature is a reticent person. Look at this sentence. Here we can see that the gentleman does not wish to speak much about a sensitive issue. So when the topic is the financial condition of his company, he does not have much to share with the others. The adjective reticent means not being willing to tell all. Taciturn. The convict was asked several questions by the police, but he remained defiantly taciturn. He did not utter a single word. Being taciturn is the tendency to stay quiet. Look at Zen and Zara. They are the best of friends, but Zen speaks non-stop. He cannot stay quiet. Zara, on the other hand, is very reserved and tends to stay quiet. She is taciturn by nature and rarely speaks. Taciturn comes from Latin, which means to be silent. The silence could be because of the person being in a bad mood, or because the person is shy, or it could be because that is the underlying nature of the person. Read this sentence. Here you can see Dave is holding back his thoughts and not revealing them to his counterpart. The adjective taciturn means to say little and not be very communicative. Tacit. Zara laid out the work plan for the week. Her new assistant Zen wondered if they had permission from the boss to embark on this mission. Zara explained that the boss had asked her to do whatever it takes to get the job done, thus giving a tacit approval for anything that is being done in relation to the project. So the boss has given a silent approval to do whatever is needed to complete the project. There is no specific written permission given for any individual activity. It's a silent approval. The fact that the Prime Minister of the country did not denounce the idea gave the impression that he tacitly approved the act. So in this case, we can see that the head of the state did not step up and speak against the idea. This led everyone to assume that he approves it. Tacit is an adjective which means implied without being stated. Stolid. The customer kept screaming, but the person who was attending to the customer remained stolid. She was calm and unemotional about his outburst. The word comes from Latin and means inert or dull. Do you remember learning about inert gases? Helium is an inert gas and it does not react easily with any other substance. Inert gases are also known as noble gases. So look at the lady again. She is staying calm and not reacting adversely to the yelling of the customer. She is remaining stolid. She is stolid and dependable. There is no real connection between solid and stolid, and the two often get confused and mixed with each other. The adjective stolid means to be calm and composed or to show little or no emotion.
Travesty. Look at these guys. They are performing an act in which they're pretending to be Hollywood and Bollywood stars. Look, there is Clint Eastwood, there is Amitabh Bachchan. They are performing a funny act where they are imitating famous stars. This imitation is called a parody. Travesty, like a parody, is a cheap mockery of something. These days, there are many popular YouTube videos which are parodies of some original performance. But the intention is to make something very funny. A parody adds humor to a piece of literature that keeps the readers interested. Travesty, however, is mainly used in a way of saying it's a joke. These coaching classes are a travesty of teaching. They are not as good as they made it out to be. They are probably just making students memorize things. It would get you to say, "This is ridiculous. It is nothing like what it was meant to be." So the noun travesty means a cheap mockery, usually of something serious. Utopia. Imagine a place which is perfect in every possible way. It is beautiful, the weather is nice all year around, people are polite and friendly, they all follow the law, there are no disputes, no fights. Sounds like a perfect place to live. So where is this place? Unfortunately, it doesn't exist. It is only an imaginary place. A perfect place is what is referred to as utopia. In Latin, the literal translation of the word utopia means no place. So we would all like to live in a utopian world, but such a world does not exist. Now look at this sentence. The city of Basel is an amazing place to live, but it's no utopia. So Basel in Switzerland is obviously a great place to live, but it's not perfect in every way. Utopia is somewhat of an ideal place. Descends into a chaotic state of lawlessness. This is anarchy. When there is anarchy, people do not listen to any voice of authority. It is a free-for-all situation in which everything ends in ruins. Read this sentence. So because of a lack of a government and the inability of the military to control the people, the country has descended into a state of anarchy. What happens when there is no teacher in the classroom? Anarchy.
Forthcoming. Your exams are due next month. Your exams are forthcoming. Forthcoming means something which is coming your way soon. But the word forthcoming is derived from coming and forth. Come forth means to come forward, which is why the word forthcoming is also used in a way other than the way we just saw. When someone comes forward, it also means to be honest and open with information. Let us read this sentence. During the investigation, the first witness was very forthcoming, very candid. The second one, however, was not very forthcoming. Notice there is no such word as unforthcoming. So, forthcoming is an adjective which means one of two things: coming soon and honest. Forthright. We come across people who keep talking lots but do not come to the point. And then there are others who come straight to the point. They are very direct. People who are very direct are who we call forthright in their ways. They speak with clarity. There is no ambiguity. There is no confusion about what they are saying. Zara was forthright in describing Zen's new jeans. Make sure you don't confuse forthright with another word we learnt. So, forthright is an adjective which describes very direct and straightforward behavior.
Herald. Look at this newspaper. It is called the Daily Herald. What does the newspaper bring us? It mainly brings us news and information. It does the job of a messenger, and that is exactly what herald means. Messenger, which is why there are so many newspapers in the world with herald in their name. A good newspaper should be a herald of nothing but the truth. That's what we expect from newspapers, the true stories. They should be messengers of truth. When used as a verb, herald means ushering in, bringing in. Let's look at an example. The gathering of dark clouds heralds the arrival of monsoon. So we can tell that the dark clouds are bringing us a message that the rains will be here shortly. So herald means messenger, a messenger who announces and publicizes.
Presage. Look at this word presage. Contained within it is sage. Sage means very wise. Pre means before, so that makes presage something like a forecast which turns out right. Good foresight. There were very few visitors at the mall last month. Is this a presage of bad times to come? The question being asked here is the absence of people in the mall predicting tougher times for the economy in general? So the noun presage means foresight, to indicate the future.
Heresy. There are many well-accepted beliefs in this world, but every once in a while, someone shows up who goes against those beliefs. That is heresy. Previously, heresy related to religion, but now it is even used when someone goes against any established beliefs or customs. These diverging beliefs are called heretical views. They do not conform with opinions considered normal. They do not agree with orthodox beliefs. It does not mean that heretical views are incorrect. They are just views which are totally at odds with what the majority believes. A school abandoning homework, which was the known practice across all students, seemed heretical. Heresy is a noun which refers to beliefs which are totally opposite to what most of the people believe.
What's the word that comes to your mind when you look at this word? Yes, it's ideology, and ideology means a set of beliefs. Ideologue, however, is a person who strongly supports the ideology of a particular group in a nearly fanatical way. It may be political, religious, or even philosophical in nature. And it's often difficult to deal with an ideologue because they're not ready to listen to anything that opposes their beliefs. Here's an example of the word ideologue in a sentence. As long as there are ideologues ruling both the states, a compromise is out of the question. It means that if both leaders are rigid, it would be very difficult to arrive at a decision. So an ideologue is someone who strongly believes and supports something without ever doubting it.
Idiosyncrasy. Look at how Jake speaks. Every sentence he starts with "so." It is a peculiarity which only he possesses amongst his group of friends. It is called an idiosyncrasy. It is a peculiar behavior which we can associate with Jake. There are several idiosyncratic behaviors we come across in our day-to-day lives. There is Zara, who always takes notes of all that is discussed. There is Zen, who always arrives an hour late. These are set patterns which are exhibited consistently. Idiosyncrasies as such are mostly harmless, but it's not something you can state as a quality. Nothing that you would proudly announce. Be careful of the spelling though. It tends to get misspelled quite a lot. After hanging around with Jake a lot, I got used to his idiosyncrasies. Idiosyncrasy is a noun which means some kind of identifiable and consistent peculiar behavior.